Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for the penultimate, the last session of the day today. And I think that I think most of you have been with us all day, so I really hope that you've enjoyed today's sessions. I know I have for one. It's been so great to be able to share National Self-Care Week with you. And of course, this is only the start. So the one-day virtual summit that we've done today is the start of a 90-day journey where you can find out a little bit more about how mums can save 10 hours a week to help them. And obviously today is all about self-care, balance, and harnessing the power of AI for home, work, and happiness. So I hope you're here to join us on this journey to become an AI productivity queen. I just wanted to say a little bit about Mums on Cloud Nine, who we are and what we do for those that don't know, although I'm pretty sure you all do. The podcast is hosted by myself, Heather Black, and Kelly-Jace Halls. We've all been taking different sessions throughout the day. We are here for you to feel empowered, to have a really great career, and your work-life balance is really important to us. So the focus of this summit is to empower you across a range of topics, to look how you can leverage AI to save the 10 hours a week, as I already said. And obviously, this week is all about self-care. So I think without further ado, because I'm just telling you stuff that you probably already know, I'm going to introduce you to the lovely Stella. Stella Amor is here with us today, and she is the co-founder of Menopause Puzzle. And I'm going to let her talk. So over to you, and please just give us your slides and go ahead with it, Stella. Any questions? You can pop them in the chat, but we'll probably get to them towards the end. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Lynn. That's lovely. And welcome everyone to the webinar. This one in partnership, obviously, with Mums at Cloud9 is designed for women to thrive in life at work. And I'm really pleased with the opportunity. So thank you so much, Lynn, also to Heather and Kelly. I think it's a fabulous summit. I've actually had the pleasure of joining some of the sessions throughout the day and see how we can weave AI into the topic as well. So here we go. Now, just bearing in mind, menopause can be quite a puzzle for all of us. So today is really going to be sharing some information. Hope you start connecting the pieces together for your own journey here, really, and how you can also support others on it too. So Kelly and I just created the Menopause Puzzle to help others. But we are women with careers, we're professionals ourselves, we're running our own businesses in leadership, but we're also mums and we're women navigating the journey ourselves. And this is really where it all started with the Menopause Puzzle. So experiencing challenges ourselves, both at home, in our life, at work, and we decided to take control. So we were actually introduced to each other by a mutual friend, but ended up qualifying as menopause coaches on this journey and specializing in change transition in terms of well-being. So Kelly, my partner who can't be here today, she's got over 25 years in senior roles. She does women's leadership, menopause coaching, and I'm a HR consultant, but I specialize in well-being and inclusion. So D&I is kind of my specialty. And alongside that, I really do leadership career coaching. I'm also a mental health practitioner. So I just believe that I weave everything into it. And together it's all what we do is really support individuals, but also organizations, because we kind of feel that change needs to happen in the environment as well to help us thrive. So objective for today, it's really top level because there's only so much we can cover in an hour that we're going to share together. But it's about building awareness and understanding so that you can better support yourself. And the theme of the summit around AI is how you're going to take control, but also what you can trust and what you can't in terms of this journey. So let's just kind of recap a little bit. What is menopause, right? And I know that we're hearing a lot more about this now in social media and out in the world. But when we actually refer to women throughout this whole session together, we're also talking about trans community. We're talking about people that don't identify, maybe as women, but are biologically women. So I will use the word women throughout. Menopause is natural. Let me just start there, okay? It's part of our aging, all right? It's a point in our life where we know our periods permanently stop. You probably haven't had a period for 12 months straight. And menopause actually is only one day. It's literally the 12-month point. And that's what menopause is, okay? So it's basically when your ovaries stop producing eggs. We no longer have the hormone, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. It usually occurs, I'd say, between the age of 45 and 55. And actually the average age in the UK is 51. But the one thing we've got to understand is that research is showing us average age changes. It can change with culture, it can change with other factors, genetics, medical health conditions, the environment, even the global location you're in. So, everything that we're talking about today is mainly based on research that's in the UK. All right, so we do, as members of the British Menopause Society, a lot of the research that we have come through them. So the one thing I just wanted to stamp the myth out is, whilst it is a woman of a certain stage or age, don't just class everyone in that box. There are many other reasons that somebody might go through this journey. Here are the stages. Now, perimenopause is kind of where I'm going to start here just quickly. So it's a phase where your body actually starts the transition into menopause. We've still got periods at this point. But your hormones are starting to fluctuate and start to decline. It's typically about 7 years from when you move into perimenopause phase before you reach menopause. So the average is about 3 to 8 years to go through this kind of stage. But some women can experience it for 2 years in perimenopause, or even up to 15 years navigating perimenopause. Post-menopause, that's the phase in a woman's life where her periods has now permanently stopped, and she probably hasn't had a period naturally for 12 months straight. So if you think about that, we then spend the rest of our lives in what we call post-menopause. So the life expectancy for a woman now is actually increased. Yay! It's increased now to an average of 89 years. And if you think the average age of menopause is 51, means we could spend at least 40% of our lives post-menopausal. That's a whopping 38 years, right? So this is why it's so important to really understand where you are in your journey, and what we can do at each stage of that transition. Now, let me just point out the natural menopause. So as I mentioned before, women can go into menopause naturally, right? Part of your normal natural aging process. But there's something called premature menopause. And that can happen to people usually age 40, and it can happen naturally, or it can happen because of a medical condition. Sometimes it's the treatment that people have. So 1 in 100 women experience premature menopause, so age 40 or before, under. And that can usually also be at a time where some women want to conceive. So you can imagine the challenges that younger women, if they're faced with this, can experience. Some women are going through surgery or chemotherapy. They're also common causes of bringing on premature menopause. So any surgical removal of both ovaries, that can cause you to enter menopause. It's typically carried out now, with gynecological, gynae cancers, if you like, and things like this. So I think we can't assume that everybody's going to be 50 when they enter this stage of life. So there's no one size fits all, right, when it comes to menopause. And I think we need to remember that everyone's experience is going to be unique. Take a minute to digest this slide, okay? We're going to take a little, and obviously I said it's top level. We do go into this in a lot more detail during our coaching programs that we offer. But here, what's happening are the fluctuations in hormones. This is what causes physical, mental, cognitive changes in our body. Women can actually have this variance to hormone levels on a daily basis, believe it or not. and then with monthly cycles. One day a woman has a high level of estrogen, the other moments our levels can really drop. They can decrease, increase daily. And that's why there are days where we feel like we're all over the place emotionally. This is what's going on, and I call it the hormone dance. So look at that perimenopause phase that's literally up and down like this. And I won't go into too much detail, but if I explain to you that for men, for example, losing testosterone, they start to drop from age 30, but only at 1% probably for each year. So they are a very slow decline in their hormone level. We've got more hormones and they're dancing in a shorter period of time. So this is why it's a little bit about understanding the journey. And we actually run free webinars for men. So you might want to get your partners or the men in your life to really understand, right? It's really important. So the other thing that I wanted to point out is if you think of the age of perimenopause, what's usually going on in our lives? Usually we're caring for younger people, or children, or we're caring for elderly people, right? Our parents or other loved ones. Usually we're in our careers as well, and we're working and juggling so many things at the same time. I can tell you I'm going through that stage right now. I have a 14-year-old daughter. Imagine her hormones. Can you see the dance there of puberty going on? I actually feel sorry for my son and my husband sometimes because there's a lot of hormone dancing going on in our house sometimes. So there's really about a lot going on here, and it's about being kind. And you kind of got to remember this. On days where you feel all over the place, it's not you, it's your hormones. And here you have it in a slide. Menopause also isn't just about hot flashes. Have a little look. And I've got another slide in a list format. So if this is difficult to digest, bear with me and I'll show you a different way to interpret the information. But this is kind of a jaw-dropping moment, right? There are so many other things. You might start to identify some of those. I'm just going to take a pause for a minute for you, just take a look. Any that you relate to there, have a look. Now, I said that everybody experiences menopause journey differently. You think around 15 to 20% of women breeze through it. Breeze through it. About 55 to 60% have mild to moderate symptoms. And they might want to consider looking at lifestyle choices that they make, changes that you need to make in your life to help. But then there are 25% of women who actually have severe symptoms. Those are women that need interventions, right, to be able to just manage the transition. And that's okay. And we might find ourselves in the 15%, and then we might change and move into the 55% later. It's not a static journey. Here's another way of interpreting information. Different perspective. So some you might identify, some actually could be menopause, and then we appreciate that not all symptoms are a sign of menopause. There might be other things going on. So it's really important, actually. This is where you need to speak to a medical practitioner, a healthcare professional, GP. We've actually got a free symptom tracker that you can download from our website as well. You might want to use that because many of us actually take one symptom at a time. And then we go to the GP and say, gosh, I'm just not feeling myself at the moment. But then if you think about it and look at all the symptoms, you might go to the GP with 4 or 5 of them. And that's what we mean about actually piecing the puzzle together. All these little pieces suddenly paint a picture. But very often it could be misdiagnosed or not diagnosed. And we start navigating it because we just feel like, oh, I'm just a bit tired at the moment. You ever feel like that? Of course I'm tired. I'm juggling a career. I've got to get home. Then I've got to make the dinner and then do the other job, right? And we just actually find ourselves putting our health and our well-being a bit to that bottom of the to-do list, as opposed as to right up there. So it's really important that we look at it holistically, not just one symptom at a time. I'm going to kind of weave a little bit of AI in here because there's so many well-being apps out there right now where you can actually record your symptoms, right? But the one thing, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what to use and what not to, what I am going to say is a lot of AI apps are there to capture your data. They mask behind a well-being that they're serving you, but actually they're collecting your data. So we have to be really mindful about it. And I'll touch on that in a little moment into more detail. Just briefly, let's have a look on this one a little bit. Part of our studies, actually, we did a lot of work on HRT. We are really pro-choice. I am definitely pro-choice on HRT. And I think it's really important as well that you don't pressure yourselves or allow articles or media or even friends to pressure you and you should or shouldn't take HRT. It's not for everyone, and it's not a magic wand that will solve everything, but it can help some people. However, there are some people that can't take it for various medical reasons. So don't give up here because there's still solutions. So the one thing I will say is there's a lot of medical evidence, and I mentioned the British Menopause Society because they strongly recommend it now. Many years ago, we were all fearful about the risks that came along with HRT. Some of you may recall that. But now they're talking about HRT, and this is based on pure proven research, that the risks far outweigh the actual benefits of HRT. In fact, HRT can actually help with your bone health. And we all know as we're aging, we actually need to actually look at that really. So it's really important. So trusted sources, not Dr. Google. Really important that you get the right information about whether you can, should, or even want to take HRT. So let's look at this. I actually read an article recently, and actually I'd be happy to share that. The article is titled, actually, so credit to Gerald Quebena from the Intersectional Majority Limited. They do wonderful pieces on well-being. And it actually talks about when AI surveillance masquerades as caring. And I found it really interesting. I did a bit of research from that article, actually, just to check what does or doesn't. And I think it warns a little bit about technology and that AI is monitoring you, as I mentioned, instead of healing you. And some apps have algorithms, right, to monitor, and they mirror back what you're telling it. So you think it's relating to you, but what it's actually doing is listening to you and then just throwing back at you what you're kind of talking to it about. So it's really important that you be careful because the more data you're actually feeding all of these apps and algorithms, if you go, and many of us start with our AI journey on ChatGPT, right? That's usually the first introduction we've had to AI. And we love going on there and asking wonderful questions. But how many of you actually go on there and say, where did this source, where's this source? Where did you get this information? Because sometimes when you put questions into it, what it's actually doing is feeding off all these AI tools that are actually they're taking information from you. And it's just feeding it back to you through different AI sources. So be really mindful of things like that. There are a lot of AI tools as well out there that actually say, right, we're here to make sure that we are healing you, right? That we help with your care and your self-care. So they start to monitor you. And they're monitoring ones, right? We've all got, some of us have these Apple Watches and things like that. They're monitoring our heart rates, everything that we're doing. Some are designed to ping when your heart rate's going up slightly, even in the middle of the night. So if you've suddenly got all these apps that are kind of stress alerters and they tell you to calm down, before you know it, the app can become the stressor, right? As opposed to helping you. So the question sometimes isn't if AI can care for you and heal you, it's actually if the surveillance can care and heal you, or is it, controlling us, right? So be really just mindful, I think, into what apps you are using. And again, we mentioned during the symptoms, quite often it could be misdiagnosed. So relinquishing all control to misdiagnosis through an app who might just be mirroring what you're telling it for the time being, until we know for sure there's research and there's genuine identification of holistic, feedback to you, go to credible sources, please. You don't want to be misdiagnosed. That's really important. So AI can be great for tracking, but not necessarily for always healing, I think is the big message around well-being. In fact, there is an app that I would use for tracking, and they have free videos, and it's run by an actual doctor, a physical person. But they do use some algorithms, but there is a doctor behind it. There's one called the Balance app, for example, you might have heard of. And this one's great for tracking your periods. It tracks, it's all about the information you put into it, but actually the articles and things coming out are not necessarily trying to just mirror back to you. Yeah, and that's really important. So personalization isn't always given. It's usually just mirrored what you're telling it. Here's where you can take control. And the one thing about AI, it shouldn't and can't make decisions for you. We mentioned that our journeys are so different that if you've just got computers and everybody telling you what to do, how do you know it's genuinely right for you? Right? Nobody knows your body and your mind more than you do. And the one thing, whether you're on HRT or not, HRT, as I mentioned, is not the magic wand. It can't solve everything. But quite often what we do know, and again, through British Menopause Society, whether you're on HRT or not, it actually tells us that actually good nutrition, active, healthy lifestyles remain the cornerstone of a healthy menopause journey. So if you think, as busy professionals in life and career and at home everywhere, yeah, it's useful to understand how everyday choices, personally and professionally, are going to shape our woman's well-being journey through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Remember where I said we spend most of our lives post-menopause? That's what we're doing. So Kelly actually has a wonderful saying. She always says, your older self will thank you for any decisions you make today. So let's not wait till we get post-menopause. And if you are post-menopause, still make changes, right? So here's, oh, I'm sorry, let's jump. So here's just 4, because of the time we have. I'm just going to focus on 4 key areas, okay? Because I think here it's about what can we do to have maximum impact on our journey. And you might have heard some of these before. Please don't take them as patronizing if I bring them up. I'm going to bring them up, but I'm going to tell you the why, because that's what people don't always say. They talk about, oh, you must drink a lot of water. Well, why? Right? So let's find out what it does for us. Then you can make your own choice. So let's talk about food and hydration, okay? So focus on balanced nutrition. We're talking about fiber, protein, a variety of vegetables. They actually regulate your energy and your hormones. Be careful for the sugar, I will say. And then think about hydration. Why do we need to drink more water? Number one, did you know that when you go through this perimenopause journey, you actually lose your ability to have thirst? So you don't even know you're thirsty. Isn't it interesting that actually you can go through the whole journey and say, I don't drink much water. Why? You forget to drink. You ever have that? Forget to drink water, because we actually lose the thirst. That's what our hormones are doing to us. So it's important to have reminders. I can come in. This is where technology and devices can help us as reminders for the choices we need to make, things like this, until they become habits. So water, what is hydration doing? It supports our focus. It makes sure that our skin health, our body temperature, also regulation, right? You feel really hot sometimes, and we say just drink water. Well, that's fine. But our bodies, as I say, they're slower to notice when we're thirsty. And actually make sure that it's non-caffeine, non-sugary options, only because if you think about it, because of our hormones, our insulin levels are slightly different, and we can't actually convert very well. So think fuel for function, not dieting. Your body's engine simply needs to run differently now than it did before. I don't know about you, if you say the word diet, I get hungry, right? So it's all about falling in love with the right foods now, not depriving yourself, the right foods. Now, if you're in a working environment, because we're busy mums and usually we have our careers and we're trying to work, whether it's at home or in the office, make sure that you've got access to water. Yeah, make sure that you take more breaks to have water, that you've got the right food with you on the go. Don't skip meals. These are the things that actually deplete our energy levels. I mean, again, fruit is great, but if you have vending machines at work or anything like that, when's the last time that your workplace did a review on it? Or what can you do to help yourself when you're on the go? Have a little think about it. We'll talk about movement as the second one. When I say movement, I'm not talking about exercise or you have to get to the gym, right? This is a lifestyle choice. So movement supports bone health, heart health. And we know that actually in terms of heart health, it's probably a key risk factor for us during this stage. A woman can also lose 20% of bone density in the first 5 to 7 years after going through menopause. There's a lot to think about here. We can talk about supplements if you want to have a chat later. Please book some time, because supplements is a whole different thing. We'll talk about the B complex, why it's so important, right? And this is because of our bone health as well. 1 in 2 women post-menopause also develop some kind of degree of osteoporosis. We're all aging, we know that. But in this journey, this is what the hormones mean for us. So again, doesn't mean having to go to the gym. Walking, stretching, taking the stairs, gentle yoga, everything counts, but do it within your capability. That's really important. Another one is sleep and recovery. Gosh, we always say sleep. It's great, especially when you're navigating life with sleep is our most powerful recovery tool. And everyone says you should aim for 7 to 8 hours. And yes, you should, but it has to be meaningful sleep, right? That's really important. And menopause, we know, is going to shift our sleep patterns, right? Because of our hormone changes. When you've got lower progesterone, that progesterone, just so you know, it's also called our calming hormone, the one that calms us. If that's really, really low, you ever feel on edge or like you don't get really good sleep and it's lighter? Yeah. So it's really important to do little things like getting outside during the day, limiting caffeine later, as we know, just getting into a natural routine in the evening. We always have a routine in the morning. Have you ever noticed that? Some of you say, right, I must reach for the coffee first. I must get in the shower first and then get dressed. Or, you know, we all have that routine. I brush my teeth first. I do this. I know what I do every morning. I could ask anybody. And you probably know I get up at the same time every day. I do this every morning. Do you have an evening routine? You know, because that your body is craving a routine. And that's really important during the change period because we're trying to actually give our body and our mind a routine and healthy habits. If there's no routine, then that dance going on is affecting our sleep as well, right? Now, remember with some of the symptoms that you saw, you know, having higher stress levels, being on edge, lack of focus, all of these things can really contribute. So we have to be able to manage these. And then the fourth one is about stress. It's stress management and mindset. Chronic stress can worsen our symptoms. It actually, enhances them. So finding ways to reset. This is why we talk a lot about breathing exercises and mindfulness. I'm the first to say I actually thought mindfulness was a load of crock. I thought, what a load of rubbish, until I actually experienced it. And now it's actually part of my day. 5 to 10 minutes a day, I will actually go through a mindfulness session. Right? You could do walking outdoors, journaling, whatever might calm your central nervous system. You remember that saying, the oxygen mask analogy, right? You can't support others if your tank's empty. It's really important. And if you're at work or you're responsible, if you're in leadership positions for others, gosh, you know, coaching, well-being workshops, look at your employee assistance programs if you have one available for you. Believe it or not, they offer so many things for this journey, and half of us don't even know what benefits we have in the workplace. You know, employee assistance programs can offer what we call CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy sessions. And remember, a lot of this lifestyle piece is about behaviors, right? We tend to do the same routines all the time, but what served us in our 20s and our 30s might not be serving us now in our 40s and our 50s and beyond. So that's the mindset switch, right? We have what we call as well during this menopause transition piece, a meno belly. You know, get the little waistband belly. And the first thing we think of, we must go on a diet because we've been trained that way, right? It's not working for us now. Why? Because our body's in a different place. Yeah. And there's no quick fix. Sorry to tell you. It's not about, we don't expect to go to the gym, have a 1 hour workout, and we walk out of there 5 kilos lighter. That pill doesn't exist, believe it or not. So this is about a healthy lifestyle changes. And you only need to find that 1%. Don't overwhelm yourself. Sometimes that 1% change in your life can make all the difference to your hormone levels, to you taking a little bit back control. And the biggest one to know, actually, if you can solve the sleep one, because sleep actually causes, if you don't sleep well, then you actually start to have a lot more symptoms. It's the trigger for the most symptoms, lack of sleep. Now, on the website, there are all free resources. All of our resources are free and they're vetted and they're accredited. We work with a qualified nutritionist and a qualified nurse on our programs. So, at the end, I'll share that QR code with you so that you can actually tap into those resources. So do have a look at those. But I hope something out of this lifestyle piece, even if there's one little change, it's really important that you take that on board. Now, just like everything in life, I've mentioned all the symptoms and that might seem overwhelming. And then suddenly some of these lifestyle pieces I've brought to you to consider might seem like big pieces. Or one of the things you're probably thinking about is, gosh, I don't have enough time in the day. Where will I find time for these things, right? But again, remember, 1% change in your life. And when you've made that a habit, you bring in another little one, another little change. It really is that easy, one thing. But when I mention positivity, this transition piece, those dancing hormones, that's not forever. This is a transition, right? And it's natural. Beyond menopause, yeah? These are the hidden strengths. This is where they start to come out. And where there are hidden strengths in this transition, if you think about it, the resilience. It's a time in our life where actually we might realign or rediscover new values in ourselves, have a bit more clarity beyond menopause about what really matters. It's actually the time now where I do a lot of leadership coaching, and actually most of the women I'm coaching right now are in their 50s. And they've never seen somebody more committed to aligning either with the job or the career that they have, or actually rediscovering a new one. Those are opportunities as well. Yeah. Women, just so you know, are the largest growing demographic in the workplace today. Just digest that. How important are we? Yeah. They're actually one of the, so other than young people under 30 right now, women over 50 are also responsible for the most business startups. It's not an accident. So we are wonderful role models for the next generation, for our daughters, right? If you think about this, this is an opportunity. And it's proven. And why do I say it's proven? I'm not just trying to convince you here. No, I'm just trying to give it the importance it deserves, this journey, and take away the guilt for you in investing in yourself. Because that's what this means, this journey. There are changes in legislation in the workplace you might have come across coming up next year. Why? Again, I've just said why, and they want to retain, strong female talent. So, it's important that if everybody else is recognizing how important we are in society, in the workplace, we've got to bring that to our homes, under our own roofs, and into our own lives. And you can carve out 10 minutes a day and then more where you can, just to make little changes. So just so that I can allow some Q&A, but before we do that, I just want you to take 2 minutes for yourself right now. Pop it in the chat if you want to, but what could you take forward from today for yourself? I'm inviting you just to take a minute to reflect and say, what's the one thing that you might do differently for yourself, for somebody else, that could help you either on this journey, beyond the journey. Remember, any change you make today, your older self is going to thank you for. So is it going to be increasing water intake? Or what's the one change you might want to make in how you feel about it? We talk a lot in our coaching program about mindset on this journey, guilt-free, boundaries. We're coming up to probably the busiest time of year in our homes, right? The Christmas period. It's all about giving to others. What could you give for yourself? Really key message. Lastly, I just want to bring this one up. And we understand transition can sometimes feel so overwhelming. You feel a little bit lost sometimes, disconnected from others. It can affect relationships. All of these things are very personal. But we want to offer a bit of clarity. So for anyone joining today, part of this wonderful network of mums, you know, you can have a clarity call, but actually we're offering a bit more just to this group only. And that's a power hour. So if you'd like a session to discuss your career, your life, and get personalized support, then we can give that to you. But again, there's a QR code just to visit the website. You can get free resources on there, as I say. We also run webinars. I think we've done all of them for this year now, but from January, we'll be running more next year. So yeah, have a look. And I hope to hear from you. But the main thing is inviting you just to take one step closer to improving your journey for yourself. So thank you. Are there any questions from today or any insights or anybody want to share what they might be taking forward from today? Either pop it in the chat or come off mute. I think our group is small enough.
I think it was quite nice. I know from my side, I found it really, really interesting. As I said before we started the session today, I'm from an era where it wasn't discussed as it is now. And it's so refreshing that people are able to come within a safe space with you, Stella, and be able to talk about, you know, what's affecting them in their lives. And I know that somebody did, it's quite nice to actually see people talking through the chat. So Staza did say, does anyone have any experience with taming it with nutrition? Can't even say it. And it was quite nice that Lauren then came back with an answer about someone that she has, a friend that swears by it. So I think it's really great to have the interaction. Karina said that she's had the Balance app on her phone for ages and never really checked it out. So she's going to now. So that's great to hear.
It's very good.
Yeah, and Judy said thank you for all the information. And Judy was actually on one of our sessions earlier. So thanks for coming back on, Judy. Lauren is saying, I love hearing about how much passion you have for well-being in the workplace. And then I think something that I took away as well. For me, there were a couple of things that I took away. Irene has said the importance of sleep. That is something that is absolutely resonates with me. I took away the water because I don't drink enough water. Although I've got some beside me, that's probably been there all day and I just keep sipping at it every so often when I think about it. And I think as well, I loved that you were saying about women of a certain age, or as I say, of more experienced age, you know, starting their own businesses. And I think, you know, you get to a point in your life, and I speak to people every single day that say this, and they say, Lynn, you know, I'm in my 50s and I've got this real passion to learn new things. So I think, you know, saying that we're here till we're 89, I think we'll be working till then. I know I will because I love working.
That's it. Yeah, but it's lovely to have the choice. And that's what life is made up on, you know, it's made of choices. And sometimes, unfortunately, we navigate this journey and with the fog and the lack of clarity and we feel like we've lost control to make those choices, the ability to be able to do that. And actually small changes are so huge in working towards being able to do that and empowering you back to control your own life. And I love that you mentioned, somebody mentioned nutrition. It's so key. And it's not just key in this journey, it's in all of our lives. We think that what we put into our body actually affects our minds, our moods, everything. In fact, our immune system, a lot comes from our gut. And you know, you can actually absorb so many supplements and replace so many hormones through the intake of what you eat. So we definitely dive into that a lot in a lot of our sessions that we do with people. So
You are what you eat. That's what they say, isn't it?
and it's so true. Definitely, yeah.
Okay, has anyone got any other comments for Stella? I see that Lauren has said, have you tried a sleep clinic?
Yeah, so some people work with sleep clinics. But again, I was just, sometimes it's very interesting to do if you get to a point when nothing else is working. And it's very easy to say that the more money I spend on something, or that must be because it's better for, you know, it will give me better results. But I always say, actually, there's a lot of things that you can do that if you're not aware, and I mentioned routine, right? You know, if you don't understand what melatonin is or what's going on, cortisol levels that we talk about, if they're all misregulated, it's about regulating those and setting yourself up for success. So again, non-judgmental, I'm sure they have a place because a lot of them work really well, but there's a lot of things that you can do yourself around. And if you say that you don't have time as it is, going to a sleep clinic is time as well. There's some things you can do. I mentioned 1% change. And we call it the 1% change, so it's not overwhelming. But setting yourself up for success is genuinely making small changes, and they can really help with sleep because it is about habits. We have a lot of habits in life. We have the habit of putting people first. We have a habit of just doing one more email or just doing one more thing. Or, you know, yeah, or if I just do this tonight, I won't have to do it tomorrow. So, you know, and then we're sacrificing our time, our sleep time, our wind down time is gone because we're trying to always do one more thing. Or we fancy a glass of wine in the evening. I'm not going to say no to that, right? But actually that will affect your sleep. You have to make real, you know, different choices and understand what's going on. Mindful choices. Not necessarily, I'm saying, that's why I say when I say diet, you get hungry. But it's one of those mindful pieces, and healthy habits and healthy choices really do serve you well. And can impact quite tremendously. But please have a look. There's a sleep resource on our website, actually, specific for sleep. There is one on hydration as well, Lynn, which actually got some great tips in there.
I might look at that one.
Yeah, which is great. So please do explore it, have a look. If you see something there and you have questions, just pop them through. You can use the QR code here, get hold of us. I've put my LinkedIn. Also, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, where we do publish star articles and things like that. Again, from credible sources. We don't just make them up. We actually verify everything and work in partnerships. But yeah, I'm just more excited to be able to share some things today. Like I say, it's just top level. But if you just take one little small change for yourself from today, then, you know, be proud of yourselves because that one small change could make a big difference.
Great. That's a really good message, and I'm sure that's a good message from everyone. Just lastly, I saw that Staza has said, how do you manage nutrition with family meals? I mean, obviously, I'm no expert on that, but I think it's important to think about you. And, you know, I mean, for me personally, I would do something different, but that's me.
Yeah, everybody's different. Again, there's no right or wrong, right? It's what works for you. My house is very difficult because I have two kids that don't want to eat what we want to eat, and you know, so I end up making two different meals and things like this. But it's what can you manage around what you're juggling in life as well. So be kind to yourself. You know, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I had to suddenly pull out a packet meal, or I had to, and feel guilty. You know, you have to do what's right, and you know, we also work with a nutritionist. So if there's something specific, and I can't advise you just because you might have allergies and things like that at home, but bring people together. You know, the more you're making life easy for yourself, you know, there's nothing to say. The kids might not notice, gosh, if I actually make something fresh, you know, rather than always nuggets and things like this, it really is just making sure that actually you're being kind to yourself as to what you're serving up, but what you're serving, get the kids involved. You know, that's what we've tried to do, get them cooking with us, get them planning the food plan with us. If you are batch cooking on the weekends for the rest of the week, you know, get people involved, you know, even if it's just fun bits like putting labels on it and, you know, making it a bit of a fun family thing, I think is really important, depending on the age, obviously, of the family. But also with your partners, you know, for me, it's about actually, whether you're with a partner or not, but it's actually just bringing people with you on the journey. You know, sometimes you're going out for meals in a restaurant. You might want to hold back on certain things or not. I think it's just important to share and not overwhelm yourself. And if you need specific advice, yeah, let us know. We've got a great nutritionist who's actually probably happy to have a chat with anybody. She's that lovely. But yeah, be kind to yourself and just bring people with you on the journey.
Thank you. Great messages. Thank you very much. And Irene, you've asked about supplements, but I would suggest obviously go to the website and you'll be able to find out a little bit more about that. And obviously, I'm sure that Stella, Kelly and her team will be more than happy to discuss things with you further. One last thing's gone in the chat. It's a thumbs up. So that's really good. Thank you.
Right back at you. Thank you so much for today. It's been a lovely opportunity to talk to you and hope to connect again soon. So
thank you, Stella.
thank
Thank you,
you,
everyone, for joining. And
have a
thank you,
lovely
Fred, for all being part of today.
Oh,
Take
it's been
care.
a fabulous day. Thank you, Lynn. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.